Do you recognize this surf spot? This is Dreamy's, popular spot off of Isla Vista, 6-8 block. And if you've seen this wave a lot, you know that there's something missing from this photo. There it is. Oil platform holly. Oil platform holly is one of the most productive reef ecosystems in the entire world. My Eli project originally was dedicated to advocating for platform holly as an artificial reef to save the fish, mammals, and birds that use the platform, that call the platform home, and to open up the idea of research and recreational opportunities on the platform. I wanted to advocate strongly for using California's AB 2503 Rigs to Reefs bill to turn platform holly into a permanent artificial reef that would benefit the community. But as I dove into research and learned more about the subject and the opposing sides and the controversies surrounding this decision, I started to wonder if my original purpose was the purpose that I wanted to fight for all along. I wasn't sure if I preferred this or this. See, the primary concern of the state is the aesthetic of the surrounding area. And when it's reduced to this simple problem of the aesthetic, it's a simple decision, or this. And the answer is often clear. But when you look below the surface, the conversation gets much more complicated. Here's Holly. It's often surrounded by oil, and many people think it's because it's leaking, but it's not. Holly was built where it is because of the large amounts of naturally occurring gas and oil in the Santa Barbara Channel. Studies actually show that Holly reduces the amount of natural seepage because it reduces the amount of pressure within the oil reserves beneath the ocean floor. And the top layer of Holly is the intertidal zone, where older fish, large mammals, sea lions raise their families, and pelicans rest in the middle of the ocean. As soon as you go below the surface, you find corals, sea anemones, native fish species, and countless other organisms, all thriving in this de facto marine reserve. Therefore, it sets the precedent for the rest of the oil platforms on the California coast, killing millions of organisms, but also sparing many and allowing a reproductive powerhouse to exist on the ocean floor and preserving the aesthetic value of the coastline. But there are many risks involved, such as who gets the liability if something goes wrong. Say a ship hits the platform or a diver is injured. In the Gulf of Mexico, they have hundreds of these artificial reefs, and liability hasn't been a huge issue. People generally know how to stay safe around the platforms. But there are many more opinions to consider, such as the local Barbadeño Chumash people, who have inhabited the land for tens of thousands of years and wish to see it restored to its pre-colonial state. This brings up an interesting current controversy when Western science is applied. From an ecological standpoint, the platform brings in a lot of biodiversity and ecological mass productivity and production that overall benefits the surrounding ecosystems and economic potential. That decision is to be made by the California State Lands Commission. So my goal with my Eli project at the bottom of my mountain was to create public support for reefing holly by mid-2025, just through conversation, education, and awareness. I wanted to create an Instagram campaign that gained followers who are interested in the topic and encourage them to learn more and consider reefing holly as a serious option. On top of the mountain was saving platform holly, turning it into some sort of research and recreational lighthouse where solar and wind energy could be utilized in conjunction with research from UCSB, recreation from the surrounding community, and a cultural change in which old remnants of the extractivist past of our society is reframed and turned around into something that actually benefits the environment. As a charismatic and forward-thinking leader, I believed I could make a serious change and open up a whole new conversation when it came to reefing holly. My mountaintop goal was inspired, of course, by Ryan Davis's American Green Corp. So I read scientific articles, news articles, opinion edits. I interviewed scientists, folks working on artificial reefs elsewhere in the world, and indigenous Chumash peoples, as well as representatives from environmental organizations like the EDC, as well as representatives from indigenous environmental organizations, to try and understand all perspectives and all sides of the controversy. Research led me in no particular conclusion. I understood the science well, which was clear that the platform Holly was a productive reef, but there was no clear trade-off or cost-benefit analysis of reefing the platform versus removing it. So I led trips with my club, the Excursion Club. I took out families and friends, young members of the community and old, and I tried to educate them and share my ideas and what I had learned in order to start a conversation around Holly. What I found was that most people barely even knew that the platform was decommissioned, let alone that it was a thriving reef. Because of my biased opinion, because I'm not local, and the first thing that I read and the way that I've been conditioned, I saw the science as the primary objective. And so when I talked to people, when I led trips, I influenced many to believe in reefing. But the more and more I did that, the more and more I realized how little I was taking into account indigenous peoples, environmental organizations, and the Goleta locals who had genuine concerns and didn't want to support oil companies in the channel. So as I made my Instagram account, I tried to be as non-biased, as objective as possible, and consider all sides of the story. I began by humanizing Holly in a storybook style. I included comments from the general public, as well as a mix in of the science and recent research that had been published around the topic. As you can see by my Instagram, my posts evolved and got ever more advanced and scientific. But something was holding me back from truly pushing my social media in the way that I knew I could. And that was because I wasn't totally sure that the position I was advocating for was the right one. Eventually, I landed on a comment on the notice of preparation for the environmental impact report for the State Lands Commission that of all the people involved in research, involved in decision making and policy that had serious voices in the decision on what to do with Platform Holly were white men such as myself. Hence this graphic. Here we see Joseph Biden, current president, who supported a bill to remove all 23 oil platforms in federal waters off the California coast. There's Arnold, California governor, who passed the Rigs to Reefs bill that has yet to be used, and Dr. Milton Love on oil platform reefs in the Santa Barbara Channel research, trying to hold them back from screwing over the California government and state, who I believe would truly benefit from artificial reefing. And who's that in the top right? Well, that's the ExxonMobil CEO, who either way gets off pretty clean. If they leave the platform in place, Exxon saves a lot of money. If we remove the platform, Exxon has to pay more. The way I see it, if we remove the platform, we forget about the legacy of extractionism that occurred on our coastline. Kids won't see the true scale of the destruction that ExxonMobil caused to our coastline, which means ExxonMobil will continue to operate without a younger generation fearing the true damage they have caused. As I couldn't justify making a decision and advocating for a decision that wasn't representative and did not take into consideration all sides of the story, which led me to this David and Goliath complex, in which humans are David and the earth is Goliath. The roles are now switched, and people will have the power to make tremendous change, to cause tremendous damage or repair to the earth. We have a choice whether we utilize the things we've made to better the earth or make reverse progress and try and go back to the way it was before. My priority as a student, as an academic, and as a young person entering the workforce is to help the planet and the natural world in the best ways that I can, which leads me to leadership. In fall of this year, beginning my Eli project journey, I was a visionary. I saw ahead into the future and I could visualize a path on how to get there. And that's what I did with Platform Holly. I saw a unique situation that could use my energy to turn into something wonderful that would benefit marine life. As I changed as a leader from conversation and research with my mentors, with my friends, and with indigenous peoples and environmentalists and scientists who knew much more than me and felt much more strongly about the topic. I realized that the kind of leader I needed to be for this situation was not one who presented a right idea and encouraged that idea to be truth. Instead, it was a leader who could consider all different factors, all different ideas in order to come up with the best possible solution, in order to move forward in a way that benefits every person and every being, in a way that was reciprocal, respectful, and built a relationship with the nature around us in the best way possible. So that led me to my conclusion that in order to make the best change, the best thing that I could do as a leader who cared about this topic was to submit a well-thought comment to the State Lands Commission, urging them to acknowledge student, local, and indigenous values, to consider economic, recreational, and research opportunities that reefing platform Holly would encourage. So I went from someone who wants to bring people together, who wants to make the right decision and urge other people to make it too, to someone who had to be a holistic thinker, consider all sides, and present an argument that allowed someone else to make the right decision. And that's what I did with my Eli project.